The main goal of YCP is to help as many young workers as possible get to heaven. And how we do that and how they experience that starts with relationships. It starts with friendships.
I'm Jennifer Baugh, the founder of Young Catholic Professionals. I'm so grateful to God for blessing me with this beautiful journey that I've been on. Imagine me as a 23-year-old graduate of business school, brand new to Dallas, about to start a pretty intense consulting job. And I found myself wondering really who I was. Now that I was done with schooling, I was on my own, a young person, the future was bright and open for me. But at the same time, I had a lot of profound restlessness, really trying to figure out who I was, why was I making some of the decisions I was making? How was I going to chart the course of my life? And that included even my professional journey. So I had all these burning questions. And thanks be to God, I was finally able to listen to God speaking to me. And of course, realized that even though I was raised Catholic, my faith was very surface level, that I really hadn't asked myself all these profound questions that God loves, He loves to answer, and really found my answer in our beautiful Catholic faith. When I was looking at some of the groups for young Catholics, they were well-meaning and seemed to have wonderful people, but there seemed to be a missing dynamic of, we are Catholics that are in the world, but not of the world. And so we do need to be equipped with our faith, but we need to understand how to bring it into daily life. And that's how we become an authentic human being. At the same time, I also realized that we're called to community. There's this concept that we are on this journey together, and that actually through our shared experience, our faith gets stronger, and that we can do more. And what we wanted to do, what God, I felt like, was really calling me to do with YCP, was create this community that was deeply rooted in friendship, and that we were called to a higher standard of virtue that we would bring to our workplaces and to daily life. Very first event, we had a networking event, but we also had elements of the faith present with statues of, Saint Joseph. But I think there was a sense that, we are, again, young professionals. We're out there in the world. So let's be proud of both. Let's be proud of being Catholic and proud of the fact that we're working and that we can learn from one another. So I think I always tried to incorporate this sense of let's help people connect. Let's really provide an avenue for sharing, for growth. And then we started introducing speakers and mentors because we realize that we're not on this journey alone. We need to learn from those who have gone before us. And these are individuals who are offering real-life experiences. it is important for Catholics to connect, to support each other and develop real friendships because, we're called to help each other. That's part of the charity that we, profess as Catholics is that sense of love, not just, for those in our immediate circle, but those who are also on this planet with us and that God puts into our lives. And so we're called to extend and reach out. And so there's this concept of growth, interior growth, but also this concept of self-gift. And, we can do that when we're full of, God's love for us, when we're full of this sense of mission that God has given us a great purpose for our life. And we're full of friendships that we don't feel like we're alone. We feel like we have companions on the journey, and that changes everything. There were so many challenges, so many days I kind of implored God and said, am I supposed to keep doing this? It wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy. And then also just challenges of, fundraising, of viability, figuring out how could I sustain myself financially as we pressed on in the early days. But He always sent a consolation at the right time. And I was being kind of pushed forward by the Holy Spirit to keep going each day because there was a profound need I knew for this ministry. I saw the fruits in spite of the challenges that existed and really just couldn't stop. Family, it's growing. I have 3 boys and a girl on the way, and so I'm so at peace and so excited that YCP is also growing and thriving beyond me. I'm still involved and I'm still active as an advisor and a consultant to offer strategic support. I really am interested in the organization's continued growth and will continue to be involved as kind of a mentor, do speeches and sort of ambassadorship and really stay engaged. I'm so excited for that. And I'm also just so grateful that this organization is in amazing hands with Peter at the helm, who is so full of faith. And so I'm so thankful for him and all of our board and staff and donors. And just I think YCP is poised for incredible growth right now. It's a combination of what's happening in the church landscape and how perfectly positioned YCP is, and also because of the wonderful work of this team who is so dedicated and committed.
Back in 2013, I heard about YCP at a point when I really was not practicing my Catholic faith. And YCP really was the catalyst for my reversion, for my deepening of my faith and figuring out as an adult what my relationship with Jesus Christ was going to be and my relationship with the Catholic Church was going to be. And how YCP gave me that was through peers who were also striving and seeking in their faith, and I was learning by watching and talking to them. And so having the role models, the peers, and then the spiritual guides, access to priests and other religious that were teaching me, that were giving me examples, and that were helping me kind of bring it down to the practical level of how I integrate this into my life and form this kind of spiritual life for myself. Back in 2010, when YCP started here in Dallas, Texas, we were testing the model. We were trying new programs. We were learning how to reach young workers in their 20s and 30s, many of whom were not engaging with the parish or a young adult group or other aspects of the Catholic Church. So these programs were developed in a way that was really attractive and bringing in people that otherwise may not be really spiritually fed right now in their faith or even engaged in their faith at all. As we learned that that model was working here in Dallas, there was interest in expanding regionally here. We launched in Fort Worth, in San Antonio, in Houston, in Denver, and we started to create this model that was repeatable. And a key part of this, knowing that our demographic is so mobile, they're traveling for work, they're moving, they're the most mobile generation. We knew that we needed a model that was going to allow them to drop into a city and have a consistent experience. That was how they were going to continue to engage with the content and the community that YCP was building. So our chapters all operate on the same model, the same types of programs, the same types of experience. Of course, they're going to have a bit of the flavor of that city. A San Diego is going to be different than a New York City, for example. But the core of what that experience is like, the programs, why people are there, the transformations that are happening are going to be similar. And that allows people to be part of this broader YCP network that reaches from coast to coast.
I think this age group of your 20s and 30s, it's just so important. And so there is a lot of complexity to the young person today. And I think what young people are really craving today is honesty and depth. And that's what we seek to provide with YCP.
The main goal of YCP is to help as many young workers as possible get to heaven. And how we do that and how they experience that starts with relationships. It starts with friendships. It starts with access to a tight-knit community of people who are striving to spiritual sanctity, but also striving to understand, what does this have to do with sending emails or building out a slide deck presentation? And at the same time, it's a way to share our faith with others. It's a mission field for us being in our workplaces, in an office space, and ultimately to serve God through our work. If you're isolated, if you feel like you are on an island, it's tough to have the confidence in who you are and also how you can share the fullness of who you are with others. So one of the ways that YCP does that is to bring young people together in a really tight-knit community so that they have the relationships so that they can feel confident in who they are and confident that they have the community to support them and encourage them, and also being aware that some of us are called to martyrdom at some level, right? I mean, that's a heavy thought, but I think we're called to be bold and to know that in all trust we can set out into the deep. But we're not setting out alone, right? I think that's such an important part of what YCP offers people, is that they have this kind of joy and peace that comes from knowing that they're surrounded by others. The YCP experience is meant to be this beautiful blend of spiritual and professional. So looking through the lens of our faith when we think about our work. And so our programming is oriented around that. So we can bring the two things together in really tangible ways across the different types of experiences that we have. So take our executive speaker series, for example. So our chapters host this usually once or twice a quarter. We bring in a Catholic executive who is bold in their faith, cares deeply about passing that baton on to the next generation, and also has achieved a good deal of success professionally. So they've got this kind of experience they can bring to our newer kind of early career members who are just getting started. So these speakers talk about things like, what is it like to hire someone or even to have to fire someone through the lens of our Catholic faith? These are really critical things as faithful professionals, that we can see all of this through the lens of our faith. At the same time, we hear from our chaplain, who gives us catechesis at the opening of our speaker series. We have confession available in the back of the room throughout the experience. We want to make it as easy as possible to take advantage of the sacraments as faithful. And so you blend these things together, and then throughout all of this, there's the experience of being around friends, being around people who you can build your network with. And that could be a professional network, right? It could be people finding jobs through YCP, which happens all the time. It could be people just finding a new friend group, which happens all the time. We even have people who are discerning religious life through YCP. Certainly people who meet and get married And we now have YCP babies coming from those marriages 14 years in. So there's all this fruit that comes from bringing these like-minded people together who are seeking, and also giving them their professional life to focus on. Because if we're striving for sainthood, or this call to excellence that we're given, then why wouldn't we live out our professional lives in the same way? And so that's really what YCP's events are about. We have our speaker series, which I just mentioned, networking happy hours that are a little more informal. People involved in YCP can invite their friends. It's a way to evangelize and kind of an easy entry point. We have our retreats focused on our amazing patron, St. Joseph the Worker. We call them St. Joseph Saturdays. It's a half-day retreat that can fit into the busy schedule of a working professional so that they can have some time for recollection and quiet, time for adoration and taking advantage of the sacraments. And then we've got our executive panel discussions. These are a really unique event because they focus on a particular virtue, and we bring that virtue down into our work lives. And we talk about, what does it mean to actually practice the virtue of charity or fortitude or patience? What are some of these interactions that we struggle with in our workplaces, and how can we better practice this virtue in our work? And we've got a panel of young members, older members, and religious who can do a Q&A with our audience. So it's a really interactive type event that brings these virtues to life. Because YCP focuses on young workers in their 20s and 30s, it's really well positioned to be the landing place for college students right as they come out of school. What YCP does is we can capture their attention as they're coming out because we can help them find jobs, we can help them find mentors, we can help be a place where they're building a network beyond their college campus. A key part of how YCP is a conduit for young people into parish life is that we host our events in different parishes across the city. So we work to be really strategic in hitting different pockets of the city where we know young people are, whether they're working there or living there. And we can connect them then with parishes that are in their area, or even just expose them to other parishes across a city. And that helps us build relationships with the young adult ministries in those parishes, the parish priests, and the other resources that may exist that YCP is not able to offer, but we can point people to. In many ways, YCP really is a hub for young workers in a city where we operate. Our executive mentorship program matches our young members, often one-on-one, with Catholic role models in their community. This is a way for them to meet people who may actually go to their parish, certainly are involved in their diocese, and in the professional world. And so they meet periodically one-on-one, and they have the chance to really feed into each other. Oftentimes the mentor is sharing ways of living and working and practicing your faith with our young members. At the same time, our mentors tell us that they get a lot of inspiration from working with YCP members who are striving, who are seeking. There's kind of a rejuvenation that I often hear from our mentors coming out of these conversations and relationships with these young members who want to be the next generation of leaders, right, in the church and outside the church.
It's nice to go to a Young Catholic Professionals event and see a bunch of people that are in the same realm as you. YCP is not a Bible study. It's not meant to be a young adult group that you would have at your parish. It's more of a networking opportunity to really grow and drive your career, but also your faith at the same time. So you get to connect with other young professionals in the area. So it really allows you to grow in connections as well, which I think is really important when you are a young Catholic professional. I was having a really hard time with my transition. I went from one career, I was an actress, and then I decided to leave all of that behind, move to Dallas, and go into finance. It was a big shock, and I didn't really understand why God had me here, and I had a lot of questions. So those friendships that I developed with YCP really helped me through a lot of difficult moments, and just knowing that God has me here for a reason, and we have the ability to persevere through everything. And so through prayer and through community and friendship, I was able to really start enjoying and finding a reason and a why behind where I am and the work that I'm doing.
Being involved with the chapter actually gave me more confidence and more purpose, leaning into my faith. When I discovered the YCP Dallas chapter, I was impressed and surprised to find a group of driven, ambitious, young Catholic professionals coming together in community. And to know that there is a community that anyone in any of the major cities in the United States can go to who's feeling alone, who's feeling they want a change, they want something better, they want to get deeper into their faith, that exists. But it starts by showing up, getting involved, becoming a member, taking advantage of all that the membership offers. For most of our chapters, mentorship is the biggest thing that membership offers for that. The network that YCP has across the country is phenomenal, and it really provides a space for people to come and to hear from some of the biggest names in the industry. It is fantastic to understand, where am I in my life? How can I relate to that, and how can I use that to become better? And still keeping faith at the center of that. And I think that's fantastic.
I've been involved with Young Catholic Professionals since around 2016. There was a trip that I went on in 2020 that was organized by Young Catholic Professionals. It was a pilgrimage to Italy, and it was about 36 of us that were on that trip, and we all became pretty close. And then from that group, whenever we came back, it was right when lockdown started happening. So we had virtual rosaries, and we would talk about the different things that were going on in our cities. And then we would meet up once a year just to catch up and talk about our lives and go to Mass together. And I've met all of my closest friends through Young Catholic Professionals. Once I experienced YCP, I kept on coming back and making new friends.
Best way to get involved with YCP is to go on the Young Catholic Professionals website. On the website, you can find a chapter near you. Go ahead and click that information. There should be updates on upcoming events, but you can also go ahead on Facebook and Instagram, follow the YCP chapter near you. They should be updating it daily like we do here in the Dallas chapter. And then don't be shy and just show up to your first event.
Organizationally, YCP is run almost entirely by volunteers. We have 700 volunteers working to run our 40 chapters across the country. And that allows these young leaders to get this tremendous experience in leading a team, growing their chapter, marketing, technology, operations, building relationships in their city through their YCP leadership. We also have a local board of directors and a chaplain for every chapter. They're supported by our 13 full-time staff. Those staff provide all of the back office support that they need, from tech and finance and operations. We ensure the consistency and the viability of the mission across the country. And we also work to wrap up the entire apostolate under one family, one brand, right? One experience, so that we're unified. And so our role is to help unify the network so that these hundreds of volunteers across the country and thousands of members are all part of one mission, this mission of working in witness for Christ.
We belong to God, and God has called us to heaven. And I think that's what makes these friendships so meaningful in YCP, is that there's this sense of joy and hope that we are here pilgrims on a journey. And I think that shared understanding really helps deepen the friendships and deepens the meaning to everyday life.